which were fascinating. And one of the dances was called the lion dance, in which this group of monks was being terrified by a lion, which was this monstrously, it's similar to the Chinese dragon one. And the way they expressed their terror was like this. They put their hands up, and that's all they did. Yeah, there was no interest or attempt to engage their physiognomy, their emotional life, to reshape their interior in order to get into the terror. They were just showing people what that terror was. I said, God Almighty, what a wonderful thing to be able to show it without having to take on all of that negativity and all that angst, and it just stayed with me. It just is an amazing idea of what other cultures can do with the same kind of material. Interesting.
We talked about this a little in Santa Fe. I don't know whether you want to bring this up, but and the fact that we both had spiritual teachers. And I wondered whether what you went through that you wrote about in Halfway Through the Door, how your spiritual practice and what you learned from him about yourself affected how you approached your craft, and did that impact at all on that feeling of going into those parts of your persona that are painful and guarded and that you would rather not expose?
Well, there's not a lot I'm afraid of exposing anymore, I don't think. And I don't think there's very much that frightens me about exposing who I am and what I am. I think one of the greatest things I learned from my first teacher was there was a middle period after I worked with Norman and a couple of other really good directors. Things didn't go so well. I have to catch 22, and I started having to take projects that I wasn't terribly excited about, but I needed the bread. And I was hell on directors for a while, but I was terrible with a series of directors who I felt were not just inadequate, but martinets, or treated the crew badly, or had no business being there whatsoever. They had no real craft. They just lucked out, and I would terrorize them. There was a period of time where I terrorized them, and then this was like a huge lesson for me. Then my teacher finally said to me when I could, he said, "Try." He said, at one point I said, he asked me to do this, and I said, that's crap, and I'm not going to do it. I said, it's shallow, it's stupid, it's pandering, and I'm not going to do it like that. And my teacher said to me, he said, why don't you try for a while taking the bad directions of a person and see what happens? And I was shocked. I said, what kind of... I said, I spent my life getting to a point. I got 2 Academy Award nominations, for God's sake. I've worked with great directors who seem to like my work, and I'm supposed to take bad directions from morons? And he says, try it, see what happens. So I finally started to try doing that. And I found miracles started taking place. The first miracle was that if I tried it, it would be patently clear very often that it wasn't working. And the director would be decent enough to recognize that it wasn't working. Other times, I would find that it was working, but it was a place that I was afraid to go. And that in my arrogance, I thought that I had reached the point where I didn't have to deal with stuff anymore, and didn't want to go to certain places. I'm sure you find that all the time. That the places, actors, just for whatever reason, because it doesn't make them look good or it touches on something from their past. So that was another stance. The third thing it did that was wonderful was that it created a much more comfortable atmosphere on the set, so that whatever talents these directors did have, they were more comfortable in presenting to me and the other people on set. So in every way, it became an infinitely more positive approach. I remember watching Marty Sheen work with one of the directors. It was my first time I saw him working with a director where we were in a project together. I said, oh, Jesus, oh God, what is it? Asking us, and Marty would say, Marty would listen to this terrible direction. He'd say, great, that's a great idea, but how about this? What do you think about this? And he'd do something, and he'd just turn it around, turn it upside down and around. It's just brilliant to watch him work. He should have been the President of the United States. Yeah.